YouTube? Welcome back to our latest video. Today we're going to talk you through our 5 top tips to help you PB your next running race. If you've been watching our videos, you'll know we've both just done the Manchester Half Marathon and we've done quite a few races this year. We also help hundreds of our clients inside our client community run their first race or PB their next race, and we're going to help break down the exact things that they know that's helped them PB their next race.
About 18 months ago, we ran our first Hyrox race, and a little bit of a disclaimer, the longest we'd run in that point in time was 10k. Never run further than that. And that was a lesson going into the first Hyrox, that you need to run further than just 8k to actually do well on the race day. But it was only about 18 months ago where we really started getting so much more into our running journey. Both of us started running and used to hate it. And it was always trying to chase a PB. It was always trying to run faster. And all that meant was we were just always fatigued, always struggled. It just always felt like a slog that we couldn't ultimately improve on. And you'd see those little increases in time, yes, but working at that threshold is probably one of the worst possible things you can do. We're going to go into that a little bit more detail. Quickly learn that actually to get better at running, it's going to come down from controlling your paces, running actually a lot slower than you think you do, and then building that longer duration and longer engine in fitness. That's going to lead you to a place to enjoy your running journey so much more. When you enjoy something, you're naturally going to be able to commit to it better. And if you commit to it better, you're then going to therefore achieve the results that you want.
Okay, let's get straight into it. Tip number 1 is your running frequency. You need to obviously make sure you're running enough relative to the race you're racing. Regardless of the running distance, we recommend if you're wanting to see improvements, you run at least twice a week and have a mixture of short and long distance runs within your program. One of the biggest mistakes we see, and there's something that we used to do as well, is you used to treat every single run like it needs to be your longest and your fastest and your hardest.
Is that not what you meant to do?
And if you do that, you're going to learn the hard way, because we definitely did. But you need to have a mixture of easy pace runs and hard pace runs for you to be able to see progress.
It's a little bit like walking into the gym and trying to PB your lift every single week. If you treat your running journey that same way, then you're going to always obviously be annoyed. But actually, you work through your weight, you build, you peak, you retest. Same with your running.
You need to be doing a mixture of zone 2 easy up to zone 5 training for you to get that perfect balance. If you try and threshold zone 5 10 out of 10 effort every single time, it's going to take you a hell of a lot of time to recover from that.
And if you find like, oh, zone 2, I can't run in zone 2, it just means you need to run so much slower than you think you can. Like you might say, I'm not fit enough to run in zone 2, and a true zone 2. There's lots of people on Instagram that will be like, I've just been on a zone 2 Stairmaster session, zone 2 run. You're like, no, you haven't. A 4:10 pace at 160 beats per minute is not a zone 2, and it's not an easy run. So you've got to look, obviously, if you've got a watch or a heart rate monitor, that's going to be the best way to judge this. It should be like a conversational pace. You should literally be able to run with someone, hold a conversation, not get out of breath, not destroy your pacing, and you feel pretty fine at the end of the run.
Some of the best runs actually are if you can go for a run with a friend and just chat to them. One, you're not looking at the...
Such a woman thing to say that.
Chat, talk.
Just, oh, hello, how are you?
You'd be in person. You wouldn't be on the phone. You'd be talking to them. Do I talk to you like that when you're sat in front of me?
You do, yeah. You do it. Cups.
Ring,
Sarah.
ring.
Hello. Sarah. Hello.
But honestly, if you run with a friend, it's one, going to distract you, so you're not always going to be thinking about how much longer have I got, how hard is this, and 2, you're going to run naturally slower so you can speak, and that's going to help you keep your heart rate low.
Obviously, go with a friend that isn't bloody Usain Bolt, because that's not going to be ideal. When they're at a conversational pace and you're like running after them, that won't be ideal.
how I feel with you sometimes. But yeah, in summary, you need to make sure you're running at least 2 times a week, up to 4 times if you've got the capacity for it, and making sure you've got a good balance of easy and short, long and hard runs.
So tip number 2 is around pacing strategy. Obviously, this is going to be so important for you on the race day to actually know what it is you need to go and hold to hit a specific time. ChatGPT is an amazing tool for everything, but in this specific area, it's really handy for you because you can literally just ask it, I want to finish the race in X amount of time, and it's going to be able to tell you what pace you need to hold as an average. For experienced runners out there, they might recommend, or you might see people talking about negative splits, which is fine if you have good race experience. The problem we actually find with negative splits is that, yes, okay, you can start slower and you build up into the race and you build up into a certain pace, but it means you have to, non-negotiable, finish that race at a much quicker time than you started. So therefore, if you still have gone out a little bit too hot and you have that target time in mind, you're going to get to the end and you might not have that energy left to be able to push to that pace to get the time that you wanted to achieve. I much prefer finding an average pace that you need to run and try and hold in and around that for the duration of the race. And if you have anything left to give at the end, that's where you're then going to empty the tank. A brilliant way to build up towards this is by doing tempo runs in your training. So now tempo runs are going to be where you're working around that race pace or your estimated race pace or your goal race pace. And that means you're able to basically deal with how that feels, but you don't want to just be doing that similar to what we were just talking about in terms of intensity levels of your runs. You wouldn't want to just always run at that race pace because it's always going to be at that PB pace, right? So you want to do it in snippets so that you're able to know how it feels. Your body's used to it. You can deal with that. The legs, the ankles, like the strength in your legs can handle it. What that might look like is building up through, say, like 9K, and you're slowly building up the pace. Well, reducing the pace as such. Or you could also, with that 9K, say for the first 3K, you run at a certain pace. The next 3, you're going to run at, say, 30 seconds quicker per kilometer pace. And then the last 3, you're going to run again, another 30 seconds quicker still. But you're basically building up towards that. One little thing I want to touch on before we move on to the third tip is around actually if you've never run the distance that you're doing in an event before, we recommend that you run up to 90% of that distance in training at least. So like say for a 10K, you're pretty much building up to 9. If you're doing a half marathon, you're basically building up to like 18, 19. If you're doing a full marathon, you're building up to like 35. And you're just basically working around that. If you've done these events before and therefore your body has gone through that stress, it's gone through that recovery, it's a little bit more used to what is coming, then you would probably overload that a little bit more, but it's still understanding what is the goal, what are you trying to push for, and you want to make sure you're at the end of the day peaking on the specific race day.
Tip number 3 is fuel. If you've watched any of our other videos or you follow us on Instagram, you'll know we're big on fueling strategies. For race day, it's really important that you consume enough energy before the race, especially if you're going for, say, a distance a bit further than 10K. Anything that's over an hour is classed as endurance. So you need to make sure your energy stores are fully restored before you even start. Our formula pre-race is anywhere between 1 to 4 grams of carbohydrates per kilo of body weight. Now, what I mean by that is if you're racing in the morning, typically most races will start at, say, 8 or 9 o'clock, with the exception some you might have waves that are a bit later on, etc. We digress. But if you're starting early in the morning, you're probably going to opt more for 1 gram of carbohydrates per kilo of body weight in comparison to, say, 4, purely because how much food can you consume in that small time frame in the morning prior to the race without feeling sluggish, heavy, and also sick from the food. So anywhere between 1 to 4, but just be realistic with, time frames. But if you're, say, racing at 8 a.m, getting up in the morning, 6, having 1 gram per kilo of body weight. Use an example, I'm 65 kilos, so I'd aim to have around 65 grams of carbohydrates in that pre-race meal. That sets me up for that slow release of energy so I can then have a good race.
When it comes to actual specific food around the fueling points of view, what you've got to bear in mind is that if you're, say, 3 hours out before your race, you want to be thinking more of that complex carbohydrate, things that are going to be a little bit slower to digest and give you that longer lasting energy, like oats, potatoes, wraps, bagels. And then as you get closer towards the event, so we're now talking like within an hour, you want to focus then on simple carbohydrates. So things that are going to be much quicker into your body, hitting your glycogen stores and ultimately giving you that fast release energy. Fruits, dates, bananas, rice cakes, honey, cereal bars. Then as we get like 30 minutes before your race, so this is now really close towards your start, you want to be very conscious about things on your stomach. So that's where you want like isotonic drinks, maybe again something like dates or like little sweets, nothing too heavy. I personally prefer powdered isotonic drinks, and the reason for that is because you can control the liquid intake. So the problem, say, with like a Lucozade or a Powerade is to get that same equivalent amount of carbohydrates into your system, you're going to have to drink almost like the whole bottle. Now, that's not going to be pretty suboptimal when you're halfway around a race, and A, it might digestively be pretty uncomfortable, but B, you're probably going to need the toilet, and then that again is not optimal when you're chasing a time. So the powdered form, it's just like 150 ml, and you can get it in far easier. And then when you're actually in your race, this is where you want like crazy fast releasing carbohydrates. So like gels are going to be obviously one of the best things here. You want to be conscious about in 40 to 60 minutes of exercise, you want about 40 to 60 grams of carbs. It's a fairly easy like for like comparison rule to stick to. So that obviously depends on how long your race is going on for. If you know that you're doing a half marathon and let's say you're going for 90 minutes, like you know that you probably only need one gel in that time frame. But if you're doing a marathon and you're aiming for like 5 hours, then you're going to have to be more conscious about what you're having. What's important though is that everything is trial and tested before the race day. The last thing you want to be doing is having 3 gels on your marathon day, because you're like, well, Alex and Sarah told me that I need to eat these carbs mid-race so I don't actually lose energy, and you end up not needing a wee, you need far worse in a Portaloo in the middle of a marathon, and it's really hot outside and you're sat on the toilet thinking, what have I done to myself? So you've just got to be conscious to try things, make sure it actually works right for you digestively, and then you know what to execute on the race day.
Yeah, so when you're doing your race prep, let's use a half marathon for example, when you get to your longer runs, say 15k, 16k, 18k, that's when you should be testing and trialing your pre-race fuel strategy. So try and have the same breakfast that you plan to have on rest day, see how it feels when you do your training run. Same with your gels or with your intra carbohydrates, test them out, see what works best for you. You can play around with it. You might find that actually every 40 minutes works really well for you. You might find actually every 50 minutes is better. You know, you need to trial and test it, because on race day you want to be prepped and primed as ready as you can be, and all of it needs to be trialed and tested before race day. Tip number 4 is developing the right mindset. This might sound really, really simple, but honestly it makes such a difference, especially in your training and on race day. Like we touched on before with number 1 with pacing strategy, if you're going to every single training run or every single workout like it needs to be a 10 out of 10 effort, you're going to set yourself up for failure. Some of your training runs need to be hard because you need to be pushing yourself past that comfort zone or that easy pace for you to see what it feels like. But majority of your training should be easy, and it should feel like it's going to take you a couple of days to recover from. You need to get into the mindset that on race day it is going to be hard, and it is going to be a hard effort. One of the best quotes that someone ever told me when I first started doing CrossFit was, "It's meant to be hard, Sarah."
If you pick up a barbell and it's heavy, it means you're doing the right thing.
But it's so true. If you're trying to push yourself to get a personal best, it shouldn't feel easy. So you need to be mentally prepared that all the training you're doing up until the lead of the race is the prep so you can give it your 110% on that day. You need to be prepared that on race day you will be hitting zone 5, you will be giving that 10 out of 10 effort, and it will take you a couple of days to recover from it. And that's okay, that's allowed, and that's why we don't spend too much time in that threshold or in that zone in your training, so you can bounce back and keep going. And tip number 5.
You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Is recovery.
This is going to be so important for you, not just after a race day, but more so actually in your training, to be able to give your best possible potential to succeed. So what we recommend is like 7 to 9 hours of sleep, but making sure this is quality sleep. The best way you can ever dial in good sleep patterns and a good rhythm is by following a consistent routine. And when I say that, I mean Monday through Sunday. We are not saying get up at whenever you need to get up on a Monday through Friday for work. It doesn't mean that, and then over the weekend you stay in bed till 11 o'clock. Because what's always going to happen is Monday morning is going to roll around and it's going to feel like the hardest thing ever to wake up. Monday's going to be so unproductive and slow and groggy, and you're going to hate working through Mondays. But actually, if you followed a better sleep routine protocol through the entire week that allows your body to be used to those times, because what you need to understand is that if you're going to bed and you're struggling to get to sleep, that's because your body's not naturally ready to go to sleep. If you try to stick to like a 30 to 60 minute buffer zone between going to sleep, waking up through the entire week, if you do that, your body's going to be so much more recovered, because you're going to have the ability to get into deep REM sleep, which is going to be critical for you for a good state of recovery, and therefore you can perform how you want to on the following days in your runs, in your strength sessions, and therefore that's going to accumulate in your training to maximize performance on the race day.
So those are our 5 top tips. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, drop us a like and let us know which strategy you need to implement more of in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video.
To Luke. Just like hold it on a spatula.
No, I hate that. It gives me the biggest ick ever.
What, one of these?
No. Oh,
Can you deal with it, did you?
don't you? Right, Bruno, sit down. Sit. Sit. Sit.
Baldy.
Right, ready?
I'm waiting for you.